everyone, today I'm going to teach you about straight line and graphs. And when we speak about straight line and graphs, there are main concepts and main words you have to know about that. The first one is gradient, and I will teach you how to get the gradient from a graph, or even if you have only 2 points. I'm going to teach you also how to interpret the y-intercept from the graph. I will teach you the midpoint, also the distance between 2 points. These skills are very basic skills to work with in the straight line graphs. Equation of a straight line, which can be formed in the form y equal mx plus c. Of course, there are many other forms, but this is the form which we are going to focus on today. Also, I'm going to teach you about the relation of gradients of parallel lines and perpendicular lines. What did that mean? What is the relation between parallel lines and perpendicular lines, and how will it help you in the question? And 7 and 8 here are very important 2 points, because these 2 points here are unusual points, and actually it came before in the exams, in the official exams. So that's why you have to pay attention to that. The relation between coordinate geometry and vectors, and how to divide the line segment into two parts in a certain ratio. When we come to that, and I will tell you what that means. So get ready and good luck. Let's start with the first 2 points we have here, which are the gradient and the y-intercept. Gradient means, or slope in other books, the gradient of a straight line is the measure of how steep the line is. For example, if you take a look at this straight line, it's not as steep as this line here, it's not as steep as this line. So this is the meaning of gradient, and in our equation is denoted by m. So m is the gradient. And you have to know that we have 4 types of gradients here. If you can see the line leaning like this, so this is a positive gradient. Any line leaning in this direction here, it's rising up, as you can see. This is a positive gradient, even without calculating it. And here, this line is going down like that. So this is a negative gradient here. This line has so we have a line with positive gradient. We have a line with negative gradient. What if the line is not steep at all? If the line is not steep at all here, so it's parallel to x-axis, as you can see, this has 0 gradient. The gradient here is 0, and it makes sense actually, because if you are walking on the floor of your apartment, you are not rising up, you are not going down. The vertical floor is here, the horizontal floor is here. That's why the gradient is 0. What if the line is completely vertical like that? If the line is completely vertical like this, so its gradient is undefined. So don't please write here 0. No, the gradient here is undefined. Let's take a look to how to get the gradient of a straight line here. If you take a look here, how can I get the gradient of this red line, which you can see? Get any 2 points on the line. It can be the first point and the end point, or any 2 points you know for sure on the line. For example, let's take a look at these 2 points. The first point is 3 and 9. The second point is -2 and -1. Here, as you can see the formula, we have here y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Where is y2 and y1 and x2 and x1? If you are new to that, so I recommend that you write it on the points, which means you write here x1, y1, and you write here x2 and write here y2. Then simply you can substitute in the formula. So here the gradient, which is m, as I told you before, equals y2 minus y1, which is -1 minus 9, over x2 minus x1, which is -2 minus 3. When you do that here, it will be -10 over -5. So here simply the gradient is 2. This is the first way, which you can find using coordinates. What if there is another way, which is a very, very easy way, depends on the concept of the gradient. Gradient equals rise over run. Rise over run means what? If you want to move from this point here, if you can see on the graph, to the end point, how can you move from this point to that point? I will move up here, then I'm going to move right, okay? How can I do that? By counting squares. Let's count squares together and see how can we get, if we get rise over run over here. So let's count squares. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So we went up 10 steps over. We will go right 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 10 over 5, which is also equals 2. You have the same answer here. You got the same exact answer. And you have to put in your mind, if we put it positive 10 here because we moved up, and we put it positive 5 here because we moved right. If we moved down, it would be negative, and if we moved left, it will be negative also. And it will be there if you are moving from this point, okay, to that point. And this is how to get the gradient of this line. What about y-intercept? The y-intercept is the point of intersection of y-axis, or the part which was cut in y-axis. If you take a look here, our red line here is intersecting y-axis at this point. So this point here is what? This point here is 3. So simply you can say that the y-intercept equals 3. Don't write the point, don't write 0 and 3. This is completely wrong. Don't write that. You just write 3 as y-intercept. Now let's talk about midpoint. Midpoint simply is the point which is exactly in halfway between 2 points. And to find it, we will use this formula over here. As usual, I'm going to write this, -2, the 2 points, -2 and 3. This is the first point which we have here. I'm going to write also the second point, which is 4 and 6. Then after that, to get the midpoint, x1 plus x2, y1 plus y2, all of that over 2, of course. Now you can just -2 plus 4 over 2, and here 3 plus 6 over 2. To get the answer here is going to be -2 is going to be +1, and to get the answer here is going to be 4.5 or 4.5. You can write it in decimals if you want. You can write it as a fraction if you want. To support this on the graph, take a look at this point which we found, 1 and 4.5. So this point 1 here, let's go up. You will find that this point over here is 1 and 4.5 is exactly in halfway between the 2 points, and this is the midpoint. Let's talk about distance. So as you can see on the graph here, you have 2 points A and B. To calculate the distance between A and B, let's write their coordinates here. Coordinate of point A is 2 and 2. Coordinate of point B is, as you can see here, is 8 and 10. Okay. The question can ask you, find the distance between A and B, or find the length of AB. As I advised you before, it's better to write here x1, y1, right here x2, and here y2. Because the common mistake, some students, they are not focusing properly. They write here x2, x1, then x2. Of course, this is completely wrong. You cannot do that. So to avoid any of these silly mistakes, just write here x1, y1, and x2, y2, and substitute in the formula immediately. Let's do that together here. So x2 minus x1, which means 8 minus 2 squared, plus y2 minus y1, which is 10 minus 2 squared. You will calculate that on the calculator, and the answer is going to be 10. You have to understand something about that. This is the same as Pythagoras exactly, because when you get here x2 minus x1, so you got the horizontal difference. You got this distance here like this till this point, and this distance here 1 2 3 4 5 6 is 6 squares, and you got also this distance up here, and this distance, if you count it, is going to be 8 squares. All you have to do now, if you are dealing with a right angled triangle, so you can use Pythagoras easily. So it's actually 8 squared plus 6 squared. Then you get the square root of that, it's going to be 10. So when you got here x2 minus x1 and y2 minus y1, you got the length of these two numbers here, and then خلاص, you just use Pythagoras. This is what you are finding here. I'm not telling you you have to do that every time. No, all you have to do is just substitute in the formula and write the answer as it is. Till now, we covered gradient, we covered y-intercept and midpoint and distance between the 2 points. This is the end of part 1. The rest will be explaining in part 2. If you liked the video and it was beneficial to you, press like and subscribe. And thank you very much for watching, and have a nice day.